Welcome to the next part of your Designing Your First Pitch Deck course. We're well underway into the content of your pitch deck. We've covered 8 sections so far, and we've got 4 building blocks left to complete the content of your pitch deck. Now, stay with me throughout the course because beyond this section, we're going to look at capturing attention with your pitch deck and practicing it as well. But for now, here are the 4 building blocks that we're going to focus on to wrap up your pitch, your first pitch deck, and go from there. So we're going to dive into your traction slide. This is a word we've come across already on the course, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail on how to bring that to life in your pitch deck. We're then going to focus on your timeline, which is also linked to your vision slide. We then look at your call to action, another term that we've heard recently on the course, that's CTA. And then finally, similar to having a cover slide, we're going to look at what that end slide might look like, just to make sure it's packaged up and it finishes really strongly. Okay, so the first one we're diving into in this section of the course is your traction. And I've also put in here, also known as your achievement slide, because there might be an opportunity to not only show the interest in your business, which is often what traction refers to, but also the progress that you've made so far. So how are you doing on your journey? And if you are in the early stages, there's still lots that you can include in this. So don't worry too much if you're not later on in your journey. Now, I'm going to show you an example on the screen as always, just to give you a flavor of what this type of slide might look like and different examples of the content you might include. So for this particular slide, they focus on their progress to date, and they've got 6 building blocks, or 6 circles rather, to really showcase what that is, as well as some logos of their partners, which is quite a nice visual way of showing who's on board, who they're in discussions with, and who their partners are. So let's look at some of these in more detail, because as I go through each of these circles and the content in them, it might spark some ideas for you to think about actually, where are you at so far? What discussions have you had? What research have you done? So for this particular example, they focus on the number of clients that they've recruited to date. So this might be a later stage business. They might have been up and running for a little while, but they focus on we've recruited X number of clients to date. Below that, they've got the winner of certain awards. Maybe they've participated in some competitions. Maybe they've got some sort of achievement to focus on there as well, which shows a little bit of credibility for the business and also for the founder. MVP, another bit of jargon for you, minimum viable product. If you're early stages, this doesn't ring a bell. You'll come across this quite a lot as you venture into your business journey, but often an MVP, this is what that stands for, that minimum viable product, is the base and the most simple form of your business. So actually it gives the person that you're speaking to a bit of an idea of what this business might look like. If it's an app, for example, it might be the designs of what that app might look like. It could be the starting point of a product that's starting to be developed, not the finished product, but the minimum viable product. So for this company, that's underway and that's in progress. Another example of traction could be the number of people you've got on a waiting list. So it could be that you're providing a service, maybe you're ready to launch a product, but you haven't quite launched it yet, and you're gathering some interest to start with. So you might have a landing page on a website and people sign up with their emails to be on the waiting list, ready to be told when this product is going to launch. That could be another way of showing your progress and your traction. Up on that top right, early interest from. Really great if you're an early stage business as well, if you can show that you're in discussions and you've had some early interest from certain partners, maybe certain collaborators, potential clients who are interested in what you've got. And finally, if a patent is relevant for this particular business, provisional patent filed. That's something to think about if that's going to be relevant for your business, depending on what type of business it is, thinking about the patent. And if you filed that, or if that's completed, if it's pending, then you can give, again, the audience of your pitch a bit of an idea on that as well. Now, it doesn't have to be this comprehensive either. And if, again, you're thinking about being an early stage business, you can think about the research that you've done. You might have interviewed a certain number of people. You might have surveyed 100 women with X condition, and this is what the results were. X% of these people would want to experience something like this. So you can give a bit of an insight into the research you've done, especially as an early stage business, to show that there's interest in the business that you're putting forward. As you progress, as you can see from this slide, you can start to then fill in even more areas to show that there's progress being made as well. And again, be quite savvy in terms of thinking of logos, partners, people that are on board. You might think of advisors that you've got on board. That's all part of your traction. And it links to what I said in the previous section around your team slide as well. So this is really about showing some credibility, showing where you're at so far, and the traction and the interest in the venture that you're pursuing. So that's traction. Hopefully that all makes sense. We then go into your timeline and your vision slide. And I've put these two together because your timeline can lead to the bigger vision for your business. Now, what this does is really helps to understand, and certainly for the person you're pitching to understand where you're at in your journey so far. You might think about this is what we've done, but it's really quite forward focused. So thinking about where you're at now, and especially looking ahead to the next 6, 12 months, maybe within the next couple of years. You can then go a bit further on the bigger vision, but that's to really think about this is the potential, this is where we're going. So let's give an example of what this might look like. Keeping it really visual and really simple. You could do this as a physical timeline across the page. Maybe it's a vertical one, whatever might work for you as you're putting this slide together. It might be that you focus on the next steps of your slide. As I said, it's quite forward focused to show where you're going. The traction and the achievements has shown what's happened already. This slide is quite nice to come after that to show where you're going. So for the purpose of this, I've broken this down into sort of 3-month chunks to start with. So in 3 months' time, and you can put a date on that as well. So in X month, in X year, this is the milestone we're going to reach. In 6 months' time, and make sure, again, you've got the date on there so we can see what that looks like. But this is just to give you an idea of how far ahead you might look. This is the milestone we're going to reach. In 1 year's time, in 2 years' time. So you're not going too far ahead, but you are showing certainly the immediate priorities and the immediate achievements and goals that you've got. And then you might end with that bigger vision. You don't have to do that. It might feel like the right and appropriate thing to do, but there might be an opportunity to show where you're going. I've seen it before where some people split this out. So they've got the timeline and they've got a bigger vision slide as well to really show that potential. I'm reiterating what I said earlier in the course. There's no real right or wrong, and hopefully you're getting that flavor from me. Your pitch deck is personal to you. This is just giving you an idea of what to put into it and some ideas of actually what your slides might look like. So that's your timeline and your vision slide. We then look at your call to action slide, that CTA that we've already heard me say earlier on in the course. Make sure you always have a call to action. One of the big mistakes that I see in pitches is that there isn't a call to action, and someone might have produced a brilliant pitch deck. The last thing you want someone to then think after they've seen that is, so what? What do you want me to do? Where do I go from here? So really thinking about what that call to action is, and it doesn't always have to be investment. If you are pitching for investment, great. You can be really clear with what that is and what you're raising. It might be that your call to action is that you want introductions to certain types of people to help you on your journey. Maybe you are looking to speak to HR professionals within the medical sector, as a really specific example. I then, as an audience member or a person listening to your pitch, will maybe be able to think of someone that I might know that could help. So really thinking about what that call to action is. Is it an investor pitch, in which case you'll highlight the money and the ask that you're raising? And I'll give you an example of what that looks visually shortly on the screen. Or is it that you're doing a competition pitch and you're not quite raising money yet, but people in the audience might have connections that can be really beneficial to you? Is it that you're looking for an advisor? So you tailor your call to action to what that would mean for them to come on board with you. Really think about that aim and the audience, going right back to the start of the course, thinking about what that looks like, especially for the live pitches that you're going to be doing. So let's bring this to life and what that might look like. So if you are looking to raise investment, this is what that slide might look like. If you're not, then it's going to be slightly different, and it could be our ask, or it could be we need your help, or we are looking for X. So in this case, it's the funding and the financing side. We're looking for X amount of money to do Y. So you've got this nice statement to really clearly show what you're going to be using that funds for, and then you break that down. So for this example, I've used a pie chart to show the 3 key areas that you're going to be raising money for. Again, an opportunity to put some bullet points on the slide to bring it to life and give a little bit more detail. But notice that it's really visual, doesn't go into loads of detail, but it gives this really nice high level overview of this is how much we're raising and this is what it's going to help us to do. As you start to get later in your journey, if it is investment that you're going for, a question that would come up is how far is that investment going to get you? So thinking about your timeline that you've just mentioned, this will help us get to our 12-month mark to reach this milestone. At this point, we'll then be focusing on this. So these are really some examples to think about that call to action. It's going to be different for each audience you pitch to, but really giving that some thought and having some sort of call to action will help make your pitches not only impactful, but actually hopefully beneficial for you as well, because you get something from the back of it. Now we go to the end slide, which is wrapping the content piece of this pitch course up. And you can see here it's quite similar to the start. Maybe you've got this one-line statement that ends really strong. It doesn't have to be a repetition of your value proposition statement. It could be a mission statement. It could be a call to action in a sense from your final slide of help us to achieve X. Help us to support X to do Y. I love a letter of the alphabet, as you can tell, when I'm doing the courses, but something that's a little bit powerful, bit of a mic drop ending, as I usually use that term, just to end on, to really kind of end on a positive, strong note. Make sure you've got some contact details in there. That could just be your email address. If you want to direct people to a web page, you could include that there, and not forgetting the name of your business and your logo, just to keep that branding really consistent as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavor for those final 4 sections of your pitch deck. That was the building blocks part 3 section, which means you now have 12 slides ready to go for your first pitch deck that you can then use as a work in progress as your business journey progresses. Now, those 12 slides are really key to include, but as I mentioned right at the very beginning, it might be that depending on what you're going for and what type of pitch you're doing, you then think about taking out certain sections. It might be that you have this teaser deck to send people. You might be at a different stage of business, in which case some of the sections aren't relevant, but others you might go into more detail for. This is really giving you a base template so you can feel confident that you've got this really impactful pitch as a starting point to move forward with. What a journey it's been so far. We do still have more to come on the course. The next area we're going to be looking at is capturing attention with your pitch, looking at the design of your pitch to make sure it's not only great content, but it looks really good too. So I look forward to seeing you there.